While we were doing the reviews for the previous books of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action show, we just kind of on a whim, as a joke, said that if we reach 350 subs on Twitch, then we would cover the live action movie.
Well,
and we hit it like midstream, and just internally when that happened, I just said, "Fuck." Because this is a movie that I had heard so much about, heard how awful it is, how much it completely disrespects the legacy that was created by Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino.
Yeah.
And just is an insult to fans of the animated series, fans of martial arts films, just people who have even a casual interest in film in general, and just takes all of that love for the show and says, you know what? Fuck you. And I watched this movie for the first time last night, and yeah, this one hurt. This one fucking hurt. But yeah, the M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender is an live action adaptation of the classic Nickelodeon show created by Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino, about a world where you have the four nations: earth, fire, water, and air, and all of them lived in harmony with each other until the Fire Nation attacked. And the only one who could stop them is the Avatar, who is the only person who can master all four forms of bending. And when the world needed him most, he disappeared. And the show picks up with two kids from the Southern Water Tribe, Katara and Sokka, who find in this movie, Aang, inside of an iceberg, and discover that he is in fact the Avatar. Yeah, this one hurts. So this movie is taking 20 episodes of absolute peak television and say, you know, that really cool thing that they did in the show, how can we make it lame?
Yeah. From the casting decisions to effects.
To casting decisions, which I do not want to come down too hard on actors. I have a very cursory understanding of, how hard it is to get any movie made, let alone a good one.
Right.
But you cannot bring this movie up without bringing up the fact that Nicola Peltz, she was the niece of a producer involved in this movie, and that was the entire reason that she was cast as Katara. And of course, Jackson Rathbone, this was coming out during the run of the Twilight film, so of course they wanted to have a big-ish name attached to it. So they cast him as Sokka in this.
Yeah, Sokka. That's another important thing, is all they had to do was just do a modicum of research and to know how the characters' names were pronounced in the show, and they did almost every single one of them wrong.
It felt like, I was joking about this in my group chat that I have with friends of the show, Hunter, Brandon, Bradley Martin, and throughout this, it was just me sipping the whiskey and watching this movie. It was like, oh my god, this movie! It's like, it's one thing to be bad. It's one thing to be incompetent. It's one thing to be very trashy. All of those things can be forgiven if you are at least entertaining on even the most base level.
Right.
And this, it's just boring. That's the biggest sin of this movie. It's like every decision, it's like it was, let's do this in the lamest way possible. Even taking something that should be awesome, like seeing how these elements are used and how the bending works in live action, and you just get this.
Oh yeah.
It's like firebenders can't create fire anymore. Earthbenders.
Nope.
Oh, this.
One rock. Go.
Yeah, it took 6 earthbenders just dancing, shucking, and jiving to move one rock slower than ass.
Yeah.
It was yeah, this was a rough one to
Remember when
get to.
Boomy
And
could move Earth with his neck?
oh yeah, Boomy, the baddest motherfucker in the Earth Kingdom that they cut out of the movie.
I know. No, they cut out
they cut out so many great things.
everything.
They cut out so many of the cool things in this live action movie. They cut out Jet. They cut out the Kyoshi Warriors. They cut out they replaced this entire scene because this is ostensibly an adaptation of the arc where Katara gets sent to the Earthbender prison, and that's set on like a metal ship.
Yep.
And they give all of like her character building moments to Aang in this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come down too hard on this kid who's Aang, who's played by Noah Ringer in this.
He's
who's
only been in 2 movies.
Yeah. And watching this and watching both movies, you can kind of see why.
Yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to be an asshole kid, but you don't have it.
Yeah.
You're a very gifted martial artist, and that was the whole reason that he was cast for this. He was a first degree black belt in Taekwondo. He competed basically since the age of 12, and he gets him physically. And if nothing else, Noah Ringer is actually trying to capture the energy of a character like Aang.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he's not bringing any emotion besides like, I'm excited, when Aang is so much more complex of a character.
Yeah, a lot of his excitement is there, but it's also underpinned by a maturity of I kind of failed.
Yeah, and so many
there's a somberness.
Yeah, it's like rewatching the show, there's almost this air of I know I have failed the world and I'm deeply ashamed of it, and this kind of exuberance and this youthfulness that Zach Tyler Eisen brings to the character of Aang. It's almost like that's a coping mechanism for him.
It's kind of, he follows more of almost a I mean, as he's an airbender, he follows almost a Buddhist / Taoist. Where he kind of it's in the past, I can't change it, so I'll just keep moving forward. And unfortunately, though, there does come a point where like air kind of moves through the waves. It'll keep going forward. It's not worry about it. Eventually, you're going to come to a point where the past will come back, and you have to deal with it. It's not just about going with the flow.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about the show, because it is not just a look at the different philosophies behind the bending of these elements. It's about Aang learning about what balance to the world actually means in terms of both himself and his duties. But this movie doesn't touch on none of that.
Nah. I felt while watching this movie, and again, this is the second time I've ever watched this. I haven't watched it since when I first saw it all those years ago.
Oh wow!
No, I mean, why would I? Why would I?
Exactly.
So, not even for a drunk night watching, I haven't watched it. This time, I did drink while I watched it, just because I already knew it was going to happen. I felt bad for Dev Patel.
Oh, which it's kind of amazing because this was his like first major role after Slumdog Millionaire. This was like the big thing that got announced that he was cast in. And I don't want to call him a bad actor because I know he isn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, this ain't it. And credit where it's due, at least in the physical fight scenes, because Dev Patel is also a very skilled martial artist in his own right, and that's the whole reason we're getting Monkey Man later this year.
Yes.
He at least gets the physicality down. And even in moments like this, it's all well choreographed. I just wish you could see it.
Yeah, that's another thing. This movie just will not pull the camera back and let action happen. There, you can see where the cuts in the editing are. You can see the cuts in the action. You can see where they put pieces together and did different sessions. Like right there, right cut. You knew it. Yeah, these needed stunt choreographers bad. I think it also goes to M. Night Shyamalan's direction. He just doesn't have experience with this kind of a movie.
Yeah, and where where this is the guy who made, great cinema, like The Sixth Sense, like Unbreakable, but he'd never done a movie that was on this scale in terms of, action and choreography. And even in the stuff that I think is done well, like how they translate the blue spirit in this, it's all feels like there's this saying in stunt choreography that you should not feel the beats in between movement. You shouldn't feel like these are stunt guys that are waiting on their cue. They're waiting for this moment in the choreo. And it all should feel natural, which, it's like you had one job, and that was to make the blue spirit cool. And this costume is just too damn busy.
It is.
I was like, how do you even see out of that thing? It's like the blue spirit is one of the coolest designs for such a small character that it's still iconic to this day. And
it's also attached to a character in a time when they appeared that surprised a lot of people at their skill level at that point.
And the reveal that the blue spirit was Zuko, it was almost a gut punch. Because at that point we had already had the Storm episode where we had seen how, despite their differences, how similar to their core both Aang and Zuko are. How both of them kind of feel this very deep sense of shame that fuels their actions. And with this, it just happens out of nowhere. It's like
and the sad thing is, like, you can see where this set piece could have worked, but it just doesn't. And then cuts like that where you're like, who's fighting you? How did they get over the way over there?
Yeah, it's like there's a moment where it cuts to Aang inside that little mausoleum of statues, and it was like, wait, how did the blue spirit get over there? And no, he isn't.
Yeah. This movie, unfortunately, fundamentally just does not understand. Right from the get-go, right from the get-go, you were having a challenge. You're taking a 26 episode series and trying to cram it all into 2 hours and some change.
Yeah, not just 26 episodes of television. You have 24 to 30-minute episodes of absolute peak television. And even ostensibly, the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender is the weakest, but I attribute that more to kind of first season jitters. It was like, what show doesn't have a weak first season?
Yeah, but it already kind of established early on that this was going to be something kind of special.
But it was also kind of an issue where just like with this live action adaptation that Netflix is doing, both Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, originally they were much more heavily involved in the production of this. They were the ones who pitched it to, who were involved with Nickelodeon. Excuse me. In a 2014 interview, they said that the project was given the go-ahead without their approval, and when they tried to provide input, it all got pushed to the wayside. So it was made without the blessing of the original creators. It was made without even any kind of regard for their input, even though these are two guys who made this story, who know where it works, who because whenever you're adapting something from one medium to another, you are going to lose things. You are going to have to change certain things, because what works in one medium might not work in another. Even cutting out stuff, even some of the decisions made about how this movie was structured with the elements that cut, I could see, I could justify that as you're cramming a lot of story into 2 hours. But
Absolutely.
every story decision that was cut, it was all stuff that built characters. Even if the first season of Airbender is the most has the most fillery arcs of the season, it all justified itself in building character, in building the relationship between the gang.
That's the unfortunate part, because especially when a movie, you're gonna make cuts, you're gonna do, so the best thing you can do is just make a good movie. From what you can.
Yeah, it's like, as long as you capture the spirit of the show, as long as if I'm watching this, I can at least feel the essence of these characters, then you have kind of done your job with adaptation.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you're not crazy about the HBO Last of Us, just to bring a comparison. Even if elements were changed in that, I still felt the core of who Joel and Ellie were as characters in different mediums
Sure.
and in different story decisions.
Sure.
Here, it felt like I was watching a live action version of the Ember Island episode of Airbender.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's nuts to me that you would adapt a series, have no input from the original people. But
Mhm.
then again, that's how Nickelodeon treated them throughout their
Mm.
entire runs. From Avatar, for making it very hard for them to make the series
Mhm.
initially, not believing really in the project, and then when it finally took off, trying to like constantly take it from them. And then later on, the movie, which they like didn't even get any input on, and
Mhm.
probably warned them like, "Hey, I wouldn't do that this way."
Mhm.
Ignored them anyways. And then they asked them for a season 1 of a new Avatar series. And then in the midst of making it, assuming it would be a one shot, so oh, we'll give you more, but then we're going to limit. So even when they were making a one shot, they didn't
Yeah,
let them do everything they wanted to
these
do.
these motherfuckers, and in this movie, they had the fucking audacity to
Yeah.
put book 1 in the opening.
Oh yeah,
They
that
had
was
the audacity.
yeah. They thought they were going places. Nah, 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 nah. Just
No,
just like
motherfucking
no,
no, no,
no, just
no,
no.
hell no,
No, this
no.
bombed. This is considered one of the worst movies of all time. Honestly, let's just keep
And
showing more. Everything. Oh my god,
and for good reason.
everything about this is bad. From the acting to the effects, the dialogue, just the way the dialogue is delivered.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the Last Airbender, the original show,
Mhm.
It's you're getting a lot of exposition dumped at you very quickly in the first season because you're being introduced to this world, you're seeing how it works, but all of
Mhm.
that dumping felt natural. Here, it's almost like the actors were told to pause, exposition dump, and then move on.
Right.
And the biggest problem with this movie, it is all tell, it is not show.
Right. That's very much its biggest sin, especially when you compare it to the animated show, which is almost all show and very little tell. And if they have to go back and tell something that happened earlier, it's very quick, and they
Mhm.
try to keep it short because they know we got 20 something minutes. We can't
Mm.
mince words here. We gotta be lean. And this, ironically, being so short as this, felt so bloated.
Yeah, and the movie, it's not long. It's only 103 minutes, but the pacing of it, it drags so quickly
Mhm.
and it gets through so much so fast. I mean, like not even 10 minutes in and we're already getting to like Zuko capturing Aang for the first time.
Yeah. It's,
We're getting the, initial fight scene on that ship where it's the first time Aang goes into the Avatar state, which which
mm,
yeah, you remember that that kind of, kind of middling first season, but it ended in this epic finale where Aang goes into the Avatar state after the moon spirit dies
yeah.
and summons this just massive sea monster that ends up destroying the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
We don't get that. Aang just creates a tsunami. That's it.
Huzzah.
Woo! It's like this movie was budgeted for 150 million, and it felt like they were pinching pennies with every single step that they made.
What's sad is some of the set design is interesting.
Hmm.
It's close. Some of the costuming is way off.
Hmm.
But there's some attempt there to at least try to translate some of it. But oh my god. Yeah, this is I mean, it's impressive.
Hmm.
Oh my god, that face. Uh it's impressive on a certain level for this, but nothing compares to just seeing would have seen like a
Mm.
Godzilla water monster showing up and being wrathful against the entire. Yeah, it's just and it's so slow. It's like he's doing all these moves and it makes no sense.
Yeah, it feels like dialogue is being read off of cue cards. All the action, even in the moments that work, it feels like that they just rehearsed it 5 minutes before.
Yeah, this is oh
It's
man. Anytime now. Like that's what I feel like. It's just
it's like
dragging.
eventually,
Eventually,
it's like
eventually,
you want to
you
I don't
wanna
know, do something, Ong.
nah. Oh, Iroh and Zuko, they're not nearly as intense as it was where he was basically exhausted.
Yeah, he basically almost died, and then he had to, have one last fight with the Admiral Zhao, which, if nothing else, the one redeeming thing about this movie is Zhao in this is played by Asif Manvi, who was Mr. Aziz in Spider-Man 2 and is also a correspondent on The Daily Show back in the day. He is trying.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
He is trying. It's like he is the one person who understands the absurdity of this assignment, and I feel like he is really playing into it. It was like, how bad of a movie do you have to have in order to get Cliff Curtis feel like he's sleepwalking?
I know. I don't know, man.
It's
there's just so many, just from the decisions that were made. The Fire Nation were clearly based on Japanese kind of style and lore. We get India. We get Inuit design for the water tribes.
But, white Inuit.
White Inuit. I mean, it can happen in some aspects, but not that way.
Yeah, but not Jackson Rathbone,
no,
whose biggest
no.
Whose
like,
biggest,
right.
Not Jackson Rathbone, whose biggest role to that date was playing the vampire in Twilight, who fought for the Confederates.
True. No. Yeah, so there are like skin tone goes back and forth even within a tribe, but regardless of it, that he didn't even look even close to what they were trying to do. Earthbending was China, they're the only one that got that right. And then the Airbenders, well, we only see Ong, so that's close enough to Tibetan monks. So just right from the get-go, from the bending, they clearly didn't read their assignment or just made loose interpretations. How did they think this was going to go? And it went exactly the way it was supposed to.
Exactly. It's like I would never be that. I kind of put myself in the shoes. Like if I'm an executive at Paramount, if I'm in the room, if I'm seeing the dailies for this, it's like I'd like to think that I would never pull a David Zaslav and say, "All right, let's cancel this. Let's lose the movie, write it off on our taxes." This movie would really test that. Test that moral line for me.
Yeah, sometimes. So the whole that system exists is because occasionally you just make a stinker, and it's just sometimes just better to write it off. It's just, and this would actually have been a good example of just going, yeah, either A, we sink more money to start from scratch, all the way over, or we just write it as a tax write-off. Between those two options, I would have wrote it off as a tax, just never let it. But then again,
I would have wrote this off.
I just would have wrote this off because there's nothing here. There's nothing here that even contains a lot of what people loved about the series. So you're not going to get fans, people interested, and there was a lot of hype for this movie's going to be interesting. You're going to finally get introduced to this if you don't watch cartoons.
Yeah, it was a big tentpole release for 2010. It was like every studio was kind of trying to hop into the whole superhero genre, the like Harry Potter, like high fantasy kind of stuff. And this movie was so bad and so critically and commercially reviled that it basically killed any plans for Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko from doing more in Avatar: The Last Airbender for the longest time.
Yeah, basically killed the franchise. Well, mostly killed the franchise.
This Batman and Robin the fucking Last Airbender.
It really did. It's the sad part is,
but I will say this for Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
that movie is absurd to the point of entertainment for me.
At least it's entertaining. At least it's entertaining.
That movie is camp on a level that is at least fun. This movie, it's just
boring.
It is taking itself so seriously. It is considering that they are thinking that they are making actual Shakespeare, which, as great as Avatar: The Last Airbender is, it balanced those elements of talking about the evils of imperialism, about the horrors of war, about the absolute brutality of genocide. it was also at its core it was a very optimistic show. It was a very hopeful series. It was very lighthearted and funny at points, and you don't get any of that here. You just get M. Night Shyamalan making what he thinks is the Dark Knight.
Yeah. Honestly, the only two good things that came out of this movie: a prequel story for Zuko made in a manga style, written by Dave Roman. And when I watched the movie way back when, and the very beginning, they had a little short that began with Avatar: The Last Airbender from the animated series, and they did like a little short that was about I think it was with Katara and Toph, and who was going to take them to the dance. It was like a cute little like 5 to 7 minute short, and that was the best part of that movie. That was before that movie started.
It's like they knew.
They did.
They knew. They knew you were in for some bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know if that was maybe that was an Alamo Drafthouse thing, or maybe that was I don't know. That was like the best part. I drank a lot after that movie.
I just watched this last night, and it's been very hectic at work, so I kind of had to be responsible. I'm off tomorrow, so I'm drinking a lot tonight.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. You've earned it. You are owed it.
I went through a fucking gauntlet this week, and capping it off with this movie. But to get to my final thoughts, and let all of you people go, and let us get on to our evening of planned debauchery.
Yes, sir.
What can be said about this movie that hasn't been said by 1,000 YouTube think pieces about why this is one of the worst movies ever made? Why this is an insult to the medium of animation, an insult to children, to fans of martial arts cinema, fans of anime, fans of the original show, fans of M. Night Shyamalan, and frankly, fans of film in general. Because this movie is the most bland, incomprehensible, and joyless piece of cinema I have seen in my entire life, and I have seen every one of Zack Snyder's movies.
Yeah.
And congratulations, M. Night Shyamalan. You have somehow made a movie worse than The Happening and Lady in the Water. You have found a new you had found a new low at that point. Congratulations. My one consolation prize for this is it got the taste of failure into Dev Patel's mouth early, so that he could eventually bounce back with great projects like The Green Knight. And I really hope that freaking Monkey Man is good.
I hope so too. It looks interesting. I hope it's good. I really want a good action movie. They're coming back, like The Beekeeper. They're fun, they're dumb, but they're coming back. I want them to come back. Just dumb fun.
Yeah.
You know what?
And it also gave us Seychelle Gabriel, who would wash the stink of this movie out quickly with I think probably the best performance in this as Princess Yue, and also being the voice of Asami in The Legend of Korra, which I know you're not crazy about that show, but I really love it.
I have nothing against the voice cast.
It's grown on me.
Sure. I have nothing against the voice actors. But yeah, I guess to wrap up my own feelings on it, it's got the mess of a Zack Snyder film, the tone of a Nickelodeon cartoon, the competency of a guy who's never directed an action movie before. The only thing it's missing is I didn't leave with a headache, and that's usually combined with a Zack Snyder joint. But the one thing that this movie made me feel after I first watched it the first time was sad. I just felt sad that my the show that I enjoyed was dragged like a beaten dog. It just showed up and treated like filth.
It was beaten. It was abused. It was violated like Riley Reid in one of her videos.
Yeah, and because of that, I don't even know. Would you even recommend this for like a drunk watch?
Fuck no! This is like the poster child for our rating of waste of fucking film.
I know. I was just kind of dabbling on that line. It's like, is he even good enough for that? And I was thinking, I was just like, no,
yeah,
I don't even think it is.
Yeah, I try to find even in the worst movies that we've reviewed on the show. I try to find at least one positive thing. I look, I scour, I dig deep, try to find something, something
you're way more
that
than me than I am.
Something that because the worst movie that you have ever seen, it is probably somebody's favorite movie, and I'm trying to find it with this. And after much deliberation, after much stewing on it, after many glasses of whiskey, I got nothing.
Oof. That you heard it right here, folks. Nick has given it nothing. He's given up on a movie. He's given up on a movie. I want you to hear it here. If that's not more of a damning of any movie.
I got nothing. It's so incompetent. It's so lazy that I can't even get mad at it.
Yeah.
And I was like looking forward to talking about it because this was prior to me seeing it. I thought it would be, so bad I'd have at least fun ripping into it. And no, this is kind of just like putting a very sad old dog down.
Oof. Old Yeller right between the eyes.
Like, look at the rabbits, Jeremy.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you. This is a waste of film. This is I was gonna give it anyways, but I was trying to find any way. I don't like to just throw something into a waste of film because I try to find some merit. You're way more forgiving than I am, but I try. It was in that wastebasket, and I was never gonna take it out. So yeah, there's a reason why I haven't seen this thing again, even for entertaining purposes. There's just nothing there. It fails on every level you could ask it to fail. But it doesn't fail enough to be a room where it's earnest.
Yeah, it doesn't even fail enough to be like a Madam Web, which I can see arguments where that movie is so bad that it's kind of just baffling that it even got made. It can be watched and enjoyed on that level, but this is just boring.
Yeah, it's competent enough and yet terrible at the same time. And there's no lesson to be learned other than just put it down.
Never again.
Never again. Never again. And at least you still have the cartoon series. You can go back and watch. You can let the stink of this wash away, and you don't have to think about this ever again. Like me. I haven't thought about this movie in over a decade.
You just take a trip down to Lake Laogai. The Earth King has invited you there. There is no M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. There is no M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender.
Nope. You just forget all about it. So that's two wasted films.
Oh, yeah. That was like, we tried, people. We tried.
Yeah.